Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. It means a lot to me. Thank you very, very much. And today we welcome along someone slightly different today, but someone very much involved in the media and in the performing arts stuff, heavily related anyway. And of course, that is the great Sally Williams. Let's take a moment to introduce Sally. If you haven't seen her reporting the weather recently on ITV. Sally is the current weather and local reporter for ITV, and she's been broadcasting since 1988, since her early years, practicing with a blank cassette and a mic aged 7. She's been with ITV since 2005, working not only as the weather reporter, but on the red carpet with A-list celebrities such as Tom Cruise, who dared her to report the weather from the highest peak of the London Eye, to which she did, and it's on YouTube now. Go and check it out. She's the daughter to weather-obsessed parents, and her move into weather report seemed inevitable. And when Sally isn't keeping us updated, she'll be either down the allotment, gardening, writing songs, singing, or preparing a G&T. And she joins me now, Miss ITV Weather herself. Hello, Sally.
Hello, Ollie. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much for having me. Nice intro.
No. Oh, just
not sure I deserve it.
Oh, of course you do. Of course you do. Just quickly, that intro is heavily inspired from ITV's website, so all credit to them for that.
Oh, well, I wrote that.
I did you. So credit to you then, Sally.
Classic.
There's so many good things on there. It's great. So, but we'll jump into all that in just a moment. But the starter question for every guest. So, in your case, Sally, where did it come from? The love of being in the media, journalism, reporting. Where did it all start?
Well, like so many people my age, we saw Kate Adie growing up and thought, well, that looks like a good job. I'll do that. And I've always liked sort of the performance side of things. And like you said, when I was a kid, I was making radio shows from a really young age, just always messing around with a cassette and a microphone. When I was 16, I bought myself a video camera, and I was probably the only one my age walking around with a video camera, filming things, editing it. I used to edit my videos through the television. Still to this day, I'm so untechnical. I've no idea how I did it, but I was obviously extremely keen. And when I was 14, we had a careers talk from BBC Radio Norfolk, where I grew up. They came to my school, really lucky, and they were talking about their jobs as radio journalists. And I just thought it sounded fab. And I remember saying to the guy afterwards, I said, how do I get your job? What do I have to do? And he told me the step-by-step process. He said, do hospital radio, get some work experience, go to university, do whatever you want, but try and get on the student newspaper or student radio, and then go and do a postgrad, and then you should be able to get a job. And I did what he said, and 10 years later I had a job. So I'm a bit of a rule follower, but it worked. But it did require a long time in the middle, doing the student newspaper and doing hospital radio.
Yeah. So tell me about those early years, like from the age of 7, doing your own stuff with a blank cassette and the microphone up and down through, like before university and stuff. Like how did you how did you report in those early years?
Well, I'd say reporting was a strong word. Probably always been a strong word with me. Messing around, doing the classic recording songs and then playing them back through a tape recorder was probably the extent of my journalism.
Nice.
So no journalism. And then hospital radio wasn't journalistic, but it was just getting comfortable. A lot of it was about proving you want to do it. You know, if you're trying to get into an industry that's hard to get into, like journalism, you've just got to prove that you want to do it more than the next person. And actually, if anyone here has done hospital radio, it is a bit of a graft. I had to, get up on a Sunday morning, and you had to go to one hospital and do the ward rounds, and then go to the other and do your show. And it was really good fun, but it was quite a lot of effort. And I suppose if people aren't prepared to do that, then maybe the journalism's not the job for them. But I loved it. I got so much out of it. I did make some good friends, and my overriding memory of it is that the guy I did it with had always had a curry the night before, and we'd sit in this studio, and you can imagine how it smelt. That's my overriding memory of it. But other than that, we played quite a lot of Barbie Girl and a bit of the old football tracks and a lot of Oasis. It was a soundtrack to sort of the late 90s, really.
Yeah, fantastic. So you went off on to university, and you went to Birmingham and Cardiff. Is
Yeah,
that
so
correct?
Birmingham, I did my undergrad in economics and politics.
Hmm.
Obviously, I've used that extensively since. And then went to Cardiff to do the postgrad. Cardiff's really good because they put you through quite a rigorous selection process, and and they I think they picked about 30 people for the broadcast journalism course, and so they sort of say, look, we'll try really hard to get you a job at the end of this. And they kind of do. They get you a placement, and mine turned into a job. So got a lot to thank them for at Cardiff. But also, it's like the antithesis of doing a sort of an academic degree and then going to university and doing a let's make radio shows course was just absolutely brilliant. Like it was such a laugh. Honestly, go and do a course in journalism just for the laugh.
Just for the laugh, yeah. But I think that's great because, I think, you're going from, doing, what was it, economics
And politics,
and
yeah.
politics, did you get involved in any kind of local radios and stuff while you're doing your undergrad?
Yeah, I did the student newspaper, and it's funny, isn't it? I found myself straight away in features, despite wanting to be a journalist, wanting to do the news. I have just everywhere I've gone, I've just instantly fallen into features. So it's obviously in my DNA to be features rather than a hard news journalist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did the student newspaper. Um, I mean, it's a funny whole thing when you do the student newspaper. There was this one guy there who was technical, and the entire newsroom relied on this one person. Without him, the power you have when you know about technology and no one else in the room does. Couldn't do anything without him. That's my memory of that. And also, again, going out for curries because we were in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Everything revolves around curry, Ollie, actually.
Yeah, it's very good. Birmingham curry sounds very, very good. So yeah, so tell me about Cardiff then, because then you must have. I know you just mentioned it there, but it feels like you've probably had, when you're doing an undergrad degree, like you've got all the attentions on your essays, your deadlines, and stuff like that, and doing extra stuff. You find the time for it. But then coming out of that, and suddenly all your time is in radio shows and journalism and all things in between. Was it like creative energy that just went like when
Yeah.
you went to Cardiff and suddenly you've got all these things at your disposal?
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, it was quite terrifying because learning academic subjects, you can study hard and you can do well at them. Suddenly, if you go into something vocational, it is wholly different. And I was quite a studious person and loved, doing well. And I started at Cardiff and realised, oh God, I'm not very good at this. And I remember getting my first I had to write just like 3 sentences to tell a quick short news story. And I got a C minus. I was like, a what? A C minus? I'm not having one of them. But I didn't know how to do it. I had to go and learn how to write and how to do all these things. So pretty steep learning curve that actually, if you want to do this for a career, it's going to take you a career to get any good at it. So slow down.
Slow
And don't
down.
worry if you're not any good at it at first. But you were surrounded by people who wanted to do the same as you. So actually quite early on, you got that sense of competitiveness. And although everyone around you was a good mate, you were also, sort of slightly competing because you were ultimately going to compete for similar jobs. So that was interesting. And then seeing people who instantly you knew, gosh, you're going to go a long way. You're going to be really good at this. Some people with so much confidence, outer confidence, and then or silly things like one of my friends had the most beautiful voice, and she spoke, and we were all like, oh my gosh, you need to be a Radio 4 announcer or a Radio 4 newsreader. She was just beautiful. That was Leah, and Leah's sadly no longer with us, but yeah, she was wonderful. And a lot of us on that course are still in journalism. So, they did carefully pick you. And I suppose at the time it's quite brutal, but actually probably a good decision because you don't want to go into something that you don't really want to do you?
No.
Not when it's not when the money's not that great.
Tell me about it. Tell me
Gotta
about
do it because you love it.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's good because you follow your passions and, and then if you stick at it, then everything that you want from it just comes to you effortlessly and full of abundance, just put it out there into the universe and, it works for you. Just in the meantime, keep working hard about it. So
Well,
tell
that's
me
a
about,
lovely way of putting it. I hadn't thought of it like that, but yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
work hard and
just have
life will
faith.
provide.
Yeah, exactly. Work hard, life will provide. Just stay positive and focus on yourself more than anything. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Focus on you, Sally, and everyone watching and listening.
I'm
Um,
loving this therapy, Ollie. I'm just write that down. Focus on me. Is that what you meant?
yeah. Focus on you. Focus on you,
All about
Sally.
me.
Yeah, you should get like a necklace and like made and just like hold it there or something. Or I'll put it above your computer. I
What?
don't know.
Me, 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 me.
If that works for you, that works for you. But yeah, so yeah, you've done Cardiff, and then I would imagine because you did Cardiff for 1 year because it was a master's, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's actually it was a diploma then. I think they've probably made it a master's now.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like September through to June. And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
pack
yeah.
a lot in,
Oh,
drink
you
a lot of
did.
alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that comes with the territory.
Standard.
Territory. So yeah, tell me about. So you've done Cardiff, and then you're out in the business, and then suddenly you're left to your own devices, and we're in a. As you said just there, we're in an industry which is really, really tough, and you do it because you love it, even through the times when you're not getting the work. So,
Yeah.
how did you find work in your early years after Cardiff?
So at the end of Cardiff, we went on a 2-week placement, all of us, and I went to ITV Anglia because I was brought up in Norwich, so it was sort of an obvious place to go because I had somewhere to stay. And I did 2 weeks there, and the timing was just great. Oh, you need a bit of luck sometimes in life, don't you? And just at the end of that, they were launching the ITV traineeship. They'd relaunched it for the first time, I think, in a few years. And my boss said to me, "You should apply for that." And I applied and I got on it. So I went straight from my placement. I had a short contract for a few months, and then I got on the traineeship, and then I was away. And because it was the first year, they invested so much money in us. We had an absolute blast. we, we had 2 weeks at ITN, which is the network news, 2 weeks at it was then GMTV, now it's Good Morning Britain. We had 2 months in a whole completely different newsroom, and that's how I met my husband. I was up in Granada and Manchester. We had 6 weeks of training, including journalism, reporting training, lives, writing, filming, editing, making a program. And actually, interestingly, at the end of that year, the group of about, I think there were 11 of us or 12 of us, we had to make a program, and everyone had to have a different role. In fact, we did it twice. In the first one, I ended up being the program editor, which is the person who sort of pulls it all together. And I was so bad at it. The next time they were like, "You're not doing that this time." I said, "Well, I'll report. Go on then, make me, force me." And I ended up doing the weather. And I ended up standing in a strawberry field making up the weather because obviously we didn't have any access to it. And not really changed since. Hopefully I don't make it up these days. No, I don't make it up. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
of
remember the
course, no.
feedback being, "Oh, Sally Strawberry."
Is,
And I'm
is,
still
is,
Sally Strawberry, really. So
yeah, that's your name on the WhatsApp group, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Well, I don't really, you can fight these things. You can try and be something that you're not, but in the end, it
Yeah,
comes back to what you are and what you're good at.
it's always you that prevails in the end, no matter what you do. But yeah, that's where the first seed was planted. Then, if you pardon the expression, in the strawberry field.
Very good. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And actually, I probably, when I started at Anglia, there were some of my colleagues were doing the weather, and they were doing a few features as well, and it was light and it was fun, and I think there was a little part of me that was like, "Oh no, Sally, but you want to be a serious news journalist, and you want to tell stories, and you want to do this and do that." And I couldn't see it at that time that actually would have
yeah,
been brilliant for me. That said, I'm glad I didn't do it then. I mean, no one asked me to, and there were no jobs, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't do it then, because you have to go on a journey, Ollie, and I have been on a journey, and
cool.
I worked at ITV Anglia for 2 years on the desk, writing stories and helping reporters with their stories and putting short bulletins out and making loads of mistakes. And then I became a video journalist, which is where you report, but you do your own camera work. And then I moved down to London, and I did that in London. And then I had a year doing sports reporting. working on the Olympics. And then I had 5 years out having kids because we moved to America. But all that time, you just build up, so you don't realize how much experience you build up, but so many different situations, so many different stories,
Yeah.
so many, lives and different topics, and you learn your craft. And like I said, you have to go through making all your mistakes. But I think the biggest thing that changed when I came back after that period away, after those 5 years off having kids, was that when I then eventually came back into the newsroom, I was able to be me, and I wasn't trying to be someone else. I wasn't trying to write like some of my colleagues are real wordsmiths, and I always thought, oh, I can't do that. Or I wasn't trying to be the person fighting for the top story. I wasn't trying, I was just me. And it meant that I instantly went into the "and finally"
Yeah.
slot. And it worked. It worked for the program. It worked for me, and yeah, it was the happiest I was once I
Great.
had all that time, all that experience, but also the time away too.
Yeah, it's like you have time when you take a step back, you have time to reflect on things, and then actually you sort of think, not only it's like, wow, I've done a bit more than I thought I had, and then you think,
Mm.
I mean, it's okay to just do what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And I think, in fact, I was going to ask you actually what was like the biggest lessons that through that period which you had, but you think you've already answered it already, is that you found yourself, you found that what I'm good at, I know I'm good at this, and that's great. These guys are great wordsmiths, as you say, but that's their strengths. But you've got something that they don't have.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
I'm
I'll
doing
never
that.
know. We'll never know because we can't do a science experiment on ourselves and have a control
Oh no,
and, live the same life again, but do something different, which is like really frustrating.
no, 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 no.
I stuck at the job a long time, sometimes doing things that probably didn't make me very happy. I mean, I did find it really, really stressful in the early years.
Hmm.
And looking back, it's probably because I wasn't in the right niche always. And journalism's, it's a particular set of skills every day, as well as the skills of doing the job. It's the style of job. Like every day you go in and you don't know what you're going to be doing by the end of the day.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think what it's comparable to. I suppose like an A&E doctor, whereas most doctors might have a list or something like that, but an A&E doctor could end up with say anything by the end of the I suppose I don't know if it's comparable, but it's kind of like that. You don't know where you'll be at the end of the day, in what part of your region, or if you're a
yeah,
national journalist in your country, what story you'll be on, whether you'll be stressed, whether it'll be serious, whether it'll be funny. Well, you've had a good day. Well, there's so many unknowns, and that is quite stressful.
yeah.
Um, it's also very exciting and very addictive. But I think there were parts of it that I was a bit like, oh, I didn't really probably know why I was not always that happy. But I think I found that is quite a lot to handle every day.
Hmm.
But I'm glad I stuck at it because I wouldn't be here if I hadn't. And it was like, it was a journey, and it took me to where I've ended up. And there's been bits where it's been hard, but there's also been amazing bits and wonderful experiences. And you sort of get a little, okay, I'm not sure you could say that I've had a frontline seat in history. I think that would be a little bit of an overstatement for my career. I'm not reporting from war zones. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah,
But,
safety first. Safety first.
exactly. I would not want to put me in a war zone. I don't think anyone needs that. But there are moments and opportunities. Reporting on the Olympics was
Yeah,
amazing, and being part of that, and just when you turn up at stories and you're the first one there, that's kind of a
getting
real
exclusive. Yeah,
privilege and moment in life. There are lots of moments. It's an
yeah.
exciting job.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, I mean, we'll get on to ITV in just a second, but yeah, we've talked about columnists and stuff like now and writing just a second ago. Do you think you'll discover is that a bit later on? Is that in your locker, writing columns and potentially doing something like that?
My dream, I've got about 1,000 dreams.
Yeah.
One of my dreams is to write a romance novel.
Mm.
So if anyone out there wants to help me, Whether I'd be any good at columns, I don't know. See, I'm a bit funny about my opinions because I tend to change them like the
Yeah.
wind.
Yeah,
I'll have one opinion and then someone will say something, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. So I'm not sure. I'd probably write a
yeah.
column and then a week
Okay.
later I'd be like, oh, that was a terrible thing. Why did I say I don't think that at all? So
Yeah.
probably not columns
Okay.
unless I could write utter nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but romance novel, bring it on.
oh, really? Yeah.
I'd love to, yes.
Have you got an idea or anything yet?
No, that's the problem. I've got the drive, I just haven't got the idea. And I've
Yeah.
got massive rose-tinted spectacles about it.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm envisaging, me sitting in a cafe like J.K. Rowling, writing a best-selling series, and it's all dreamy, and no, it won't be like that at all, will it? But
Yeah.
that's what it is in my head.
Yeah. So I'm sure the idea, let the ideas come to you. Let them come. But
I'm trying, Ollie, but they're just
just relax. They'll come. It's all right.
relax. I can relax.
They'll come with that. I think it was J.K. There's a story about, well, the media story of J.K. Rowling discovering Harry Potter. She was just on a train one day and it was delayed into King's
Right.
Cross. And apparently the idea just plucked out of the air and there it was.
Oh, that's what I just get on the Thames link.
Yeah, yeah,
Sit in
yeah.
a little, have a little delay.
Yeah, to
No
sit
problem.
in King's Cross station and I don't know, in Costas or something. Just let the ideas come to you. And
Okay. So if
yeah,
I do that, can people come to me and give me some ideas?
yeah, yeah, we'll put it out there. Yeah, just put a big stall sign up saying romantic ideas wanted. I think who
Feed
knows?
me.
Who knows? Who
Who
knows what's
knows?
going to happen? Anyway, so let's talk about ITV. So,
Okay.
so you are sort of a fairly regular appearance. You appear regularly on our
Yeah.
screens for the weather and, of course, other things in general. Like I mentioned in the intro, there's one bit where you looked at you're at animal farms and then you're canoeing and you've got so many different things that you do. So we'll start at the beginning with ITV. How did you get involved? How did you get into the ITV?
Well, how did I end up doing those kind of stories and that? I mean,
Oh,
so my path at ITV was,
yeah,
as I sort of mentioned, I started off on the desk and then I knew I wanted to report, so I became a video journalist.
yeah,
So that was quite good. If you're ever stuck and you can see that there's a chance to learn a new skill that might put you a step ahead, I would definitely recommend doing that.
hmm
And then yeah, and I started sort of ending up doing features much more than hard news. I mean, I did obviously some hard news stories, but features were definitely where I was at. And then came down to London, similar story there. And then sport is obviously a sort of a bit of a mixture of features and news. And then when I came back after having the kids, I came back freelance, and then the weather job came up, and it was sort of a bit of a no-brainer for me. As soon as I thought, I'd quite like to do that, then I couldn't think about anything else. I was like, no, my God, I definitely want to do that. And I should have started trying to do that 5, 10 years ago. And what if I don't get the job? I mean, honestly, I was just like fixated on it. I thought, I've got to get this job. Because I knew that the weather at London would be weather and reporting. So it's that really nice mix of presenting and reporting. And I love both. They really complement each other. Like some of my colleagues just do the weather and obviously around ITV, and obviously most of my colleagues just do reporting. So to have a little bit of both is great. And then what was the question you asked? Like, so I've got into ITV and I'm there and I'm doing my job. And how do we sort of end up doing different stories?
Yeah. So like, just basically, how did you sort of get into ITV? And I suppose that would be the next question, really, is because like, how did it go from just being the weather to all these other different projects?
Oh, okay. So, well, that was how the job was advertised. And
Ah,
my predecessor did that. He did weather and other stories, and so it's great for the company because it means they get the weather and they get a story out of you, and it's great for me because it's variety.
mm,
And some people are like, oh God, I don't know how you do it, Sal. You do it a lot, and I suppose it is quite a lot, but I actually love it. I wouldn't want to give one of them up because
yeah,
they sort of complement each other so nicely.
they do. They do. So what's like a day in the life in ITV? How does it go?
Okay, so coming in the morning, we have a briefing with the Met Office, and we can have up to 3 with them throughout the day. They've got all the science, so they tell us what's going on, and then we have to sort of reduce that down into weather for we do it into three bits. We do the weather today, the weather tonight, the weather tomorrow. So those are your sort of three main graphics, and then you look 3 days ahead. The Met Office hate going any more than 5 days ahead because the accuracy falls off a cliff sometimes. So maximum 5 days, and even sometimes, even sometimes the weather the next day is difficult. I mean, I'm looking out the window now, and I'm telling you, it was meant to be sunny by now. And this is what happens when I went, oh my God, I told everyone it was going to be sunny. And it is trying to burn through the cloud, but really by now the sun should be out. So the weather is not always accurate, and I feel so awful. And I can see people thinking, she said it would be sunny. But that's it. That's weather. You are predicting the future. Anyway, so then we go and we record the weather, and then I will go out on my story. So that will have either been set up by the planning team. Sometimes it's an on the day story where they're like, oh, Sal, this is a really good story. Do you want to go and do this? Sometimes I've set it up, not that often, because I don't have much spare time to go and do all that planning. So thank goodness for the team that we've got. And then I'll go out, I'll sort of gather it as quickly as possible because I'm under time pressure, and then leg it back to the office, start editing it, because we do, as reporters, we do most of our editing as well now. We do have some picture editors who are brilliant, but obviously there's cost savings to be made, so we try and do our own editing where we can, and start writing, then do more weather in the afternoon, and then finish off the edit after that, and then we go live in the studio. And sometimes I will be live out and about, so sometimes that means I won't have done a story in the middle of the day. I'll have stayed in the office, and I'll just go out for the end of the day and go and do a live. So it's a mixture, really. It's weather, report, and live.
Nice.
It's busy.
It's busy. Yeah.
There's not usually a lunch break.
I suppose, how do you sort of navigate that then, just the busyness? Because I would imagine it's like one thing after another, like report this, report that, and then, oh no, wait, hang on, we got that report wrong. And that day there'll be sun. No, there's actually clouds, and it's like it's constantly like
it is constant. I mean, we're quite institutionalized. Like I'm in my 40s now, and I've got a great mate at work who's similar age to me, and we'll be like, God, I'm knackered. And we'll reflect and we'll go, well, this isn't normal.
No.
We're like, our brains haven't switched off at all in the last 8 hours, and it's about to get even worse. We're about to get, like, the stress is only just starting, and it's a very odd job where my most stressful hour is 5 till 6 in the evening.
Oh wow.
And it builds up all day. So it is quite a full-on job, but I have to balance that by saying it's a fun job, and it's interesting, and it's creative, and it's challenging. So it's not like I'm poring over one document all day, which would, I know some people love that and they're very good at that and that's their character type, but that to me would be hell on earth. Like being a lawyer, for example, a heavy document lawyer. I mean, I actually don't know what they do, but I'm assuming they pore over documents. That to me is hell.
Yeah. No, I've got a friend who's a lawyer, and she just tells me all about the long days, and you get in at something like 8 o'clock in the morning, and then you're working through till 8, 9 at night or something, depending on how the case goes. And if there's a deadlock in the case, and like one party's not budging or the defendant's not doing that. Anyway, it's like a long, very, very long game of chess every day.
Oh dear. I couldn't do that. And
I'm going, so how do you do it? And she was just like, well, it's just something you get used to eventually.
Yeah. See, mine's more of like, a really fun, like a sort of a design technology project. Yeah. Rather than a game of chess, I'd say.
No, I do enjoy chess, but yeah, I don't know, design projects, I don't know. I need someone with me to do something like that, because, I don't know, the visuals stuff is it's
really interesting. I've been thinking a lot about this recently, Ollie. Like, the impact of having other people around you when you do creative work.
Yeah.
Because recently, I've been reflecting on quite a few of the things I've done in my life, and I love music, and I like writing, and a lot of the things I've done on my own have usually failed, or I've stopped them, or I've given up. Yeah. Whereas the things you do with other people, usually well, I don't know usually, but for me, I'm much more successful, and that's the only thing that we're making a change now, where we're doing a bit more of our own self shooting again. Like I've just trained up to film on an iPhone, and it's really exciting because it's a new skill, and I love learning new skills, and the iPhone is great to film on. It's easy, it's such a big screen. My old eyes can cope with it, and I can see, and it's good quality. But suddenly you're working on your own again
Yeah.
and you've not got the creative input of a camera operator,
Mm.
especially if you're doing your own editing as well. Like no one else is looking at this piece apart from you. And so I think that comes at a cost. You've only got one creative brain on it. And two is
Yeah.
better than one, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, but it gives you an opportunity to trust your instincts and
That's true. And it does
to
depend who else's brain you're working with.
yeah, yeah, and that's a good point as well. Make sure you're taking advice from the right people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, if you ask me what like if someone gives me, oh, I've written this paper about quantum physics. Can you tell me if it makes sense? I'm like, I am not the person to be telling you that because I don't know anything about physics.
Yeah.
I
But
know
I did
that.
hear a nice quote, and I think I'm misquoting it, but it was something along the lines, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Together, yeah.
Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen that. Yeah, yeah. I think because I've been doing a bit of writing and stuff recently, and careful about how much I can say about this on here. I've mentioned it a few times anyway,
Okay.
but I'm writing a play at the moment, and
Brilliant.
it's in a good place right now. There's still more to do, but I feel like we're getting somewhere. And I sent it off to someone who's also been on the show, someone called Sarah, who's a fantastic writer and everything. Hello, Sarah. And yeah, and she gave me some fantastic feedback, like really in-depth things. Okay,
Yeah.
this bit's good, this bit needs changing. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
This bit feels too passive, and I'm like, oh shit, it does actually. And
Yeah.
then you go back through it and change it. So anyway, the point I'm making is that you make sure you take advice from the right people and
Yeah.
people who actually know what they're talking about. I mean, I would imagine you've probably worked with all kinds of creatives who've given you such like gems of advice along the way. What sort of stuff have you been given?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, when you're writing for TV, there's quite, there's formula, um, and it's great to know the formula. I do kind of believe in that. You've got to know the rules to be able to break the rules.
Yeah.
And I tried to break the rules the other day, and I got told off because
It doesn't work all the time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
well, exactly. So when we look at television, we edit it in a slightly different way to how you might edit a video for TikTok or something like that.
Yeah.
TikTok very fast edits, crash edits. So we don't care about, you might have me like this, and then suddenly you cut to me saying something else,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you don't. Whereas in telly, we're not used to seeing that. So I did some of those crash edits, and the director said, "Oh, that didn't work." And I was like, "But surely we should be making our TV a bit up to date." And he said, "Yeah, but people aren't used to seeing that on telly. So
Mm.
when they see crash edits on telly, they just look
It's like
wrong.
it's like
So they're not
yeah.
thinking, oh, that's funky, and they're just thinking, oh, what just happened? Is my telly broken?" And it was a very good point. So, um, what were we talking about? Sorry, what? How did I come onto this?
No, no, it's like working with the right people and
Yes.
getting
God,
advice
how
from
did
the
I get
right.
onto TikTok?
No, no, it's good because it's good. You mentioned about how the director gives you that advice or something like that. To say,
Yeah,
look, okay, that works, and this.
yeah.
And also, I think it's good when someone's, when you can trust someone to be like, if they're reviewing something of yours and they go, okay,
Oh,
that bit was
yeah.
great, that bit didn't work, and I'd much rather have it that way around rather than someone go,
People
oh
giving you
yes,
tips.
it's
Yeah,
wonderful, it's brilliant. Yes, you don't need to make any more changes at all.
yeah,
And then you display it to other people, and then you realize
yeah,
that yeah, I'd much rather someone go, okay, look, this bit great, this bit doesn't work.
yeah.
You need to what you
Well, I
need.
think that's right. And so yeah, so we were talking about tips that I've been given. So,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
if anyone is, I suppose a couple of things I've picked up a lot along the journey. If you're recording a voiceover, um, you have to put a lot more in than you think you have to put in.
Mhm.
So if you listen back, and you think, "God, I sound really bored." Um, Put like an extra 20% in, and then you'll sound normal. Another one, if you're doing a voiceover, smile. It instantly puts more energy into your voice.
Mm.
Even if it's a difficult subject, smile while you deliver it.
Yeah.
try and speak how you'd speak in real life. If you're doing something with pictures, use your best pictures at the top. You've got to grab people, you've got to hook people, you've got to bring them in.
Yeah, get their attention. Yeah.
Yeah, some stories you some stories you need to do a bit of a dropped intro and it's sort of a bit of a build, and others you can just sort of go bam, this was the scene, rah, rah, rah. But yeah, I think knowing the rules and then breaking them is probably a good way around, rather than going straight in and breaking them.
Yeah, and also it's natural as well for that. You break the rules sometimes, and you go, and people go, "Oh wow, that's amazing, that's inventive." And sometimes when it doesn't work, it's like, "Yeah, never ever do that again." And and so either way, it's natural and it works. So there's nothing wrong with you. So it's good to try new things. I just got an idea of because another thing actually that you do is that you've been on, I mentioned Tom Cruise in the introduction as well, is that you work on red carpets as well. You go to premieres and you're that reporter behind the camera who's literally got maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or if you're lucky, maybe a minute to literally grab anyone who's there and ask them a question. Yeah. So what's your experience of working on the red carpet?
Terrifying, but also exhilarating. You get a little window into these crazy lives of film stars, and we're quite lucky because we do it live usually, and they accept that we've got we can't just have one question in a live. We need to have a decent slot, so we usually get 3 to 4 minutes with them.
Okay.
So often we get quite a few questions. You can have, depending on how long their answers are, sometimes you can get 7 or 8 questions in, and other times it's 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So it's a really privileged position to be in. And then it's the question of, what do you ask them? Because if your audience at home haven't seen the film, so you don't want to go too deep on the film, because it doesn't mean anything to them. If you start going, oh, I really like that scene where you did this,
And they're going,
you may lose your audience. Yes, no spoilers as well. So you sort of need to kind of ask a little bit around it, maybe ask them, think about stuff they've done in the past, think about stuff going forward. Is there anything that's going on that you might need to ask them in the wider world? And then the biggest tip I could give to anyone who's ever interviewing anyone, and it's surprisingly difficult. It's surprisingly difficult, and I fail at it regularly. But because you have the nerves of, oh, what am I going to ask them next? What am I going to ask them next? And you don't want to be looking down at your notes. You stop listening. And when you listen, your interview will be so much better than if you are thinking about your next question. Because the best interviewers listen and pick up off the back of what someone's saying and then roll forward with it, touch and go. So that's when my interviews go well. I know, I'm like, oh, I actually listened. I wasn't full of nerves and thinking about the next thing. But it's difficult. I mean, that's, I suppose, the challenge. I mean, I had to interview Keanu Reeves recently. And I listened to a few interviews with him. Also, we don't have much time to prepare, so it's kind of to some extent you're winging it a bit. You do your best, but it's kind of last minute. Anyway, and I listened to a few interviews with him. I thought, this man's quite shy. I got the shy memo. He's not, and I said to myself before we went live, I was like, Sally, calm down, don't overwhelm him, go in quiet, and they're like, 5, 4, 3, over to you, Sally. And I was like, rah. Old Sally came out the moment I was just like, oh god.
And I trod on his foot. That's natural.
What? The first thing I did was stand on his foot, and we finished the interview about 2 meters away from where we started it, because I had leaned into him so much and he kept taking steps back. It was like, oh my god, this woman's mental, she's in my face. So you can have the best of intentions, Ollie, but when you go live, anything can happen.
It does.
And then it's really interesting to see their reactions, and you get a bit, I've done quite a lot now, so I'm getting a bit more relaxed, but there's a part of you, depending on your character, that wants them to like you. You want them to enjoy being with you, and And some of them you can just see when you've sort of lost them. You're like, oh, I
Oh
haven't asked too
God,
many
yeah,
questions. They're
yeah.
sort of backing away. Is this interview ever going to end? But others are just gorgeous and warm. And I think some people are nervous of journalists. Who can blame them? And but others really lean into it. So I had lovely interview with Matt
Don't
Matt
Matt,
Smith,
Matt
who
Smith, yeah,
yeah, it's Matt Smith, isn't it? Who played the Doctor
yes,
and he was in The Crown. I mean, he was just gorgeous.
yeah,
Just one of those interviews, I was like, oh, I love you. I could talk to you all day. He was just warm and friendly and fun. Whereas sometimes you interview people and you can just see there's a little barrier. They're
yeah.
like, don't overstep the mark.
Right, get
And
on with
they've maybe been a
it.
bit, sometimes they're a bit over primed and a bit over prepped.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
this is the message you've got to get across, and don't say this and don't say that, and all that. So,
yeah, yeah. I think you see some interviews and they're clearly like, and some people out there, I'm sure you've known this as well, but their PR training that they've had is
mm,
incredible to the point where they can make any question sound, or any answer to a question,
yeah.
just sound so. I mean, you can hear it. I mean, they feel like they're doing a great job and they're hiding it and all that kind of thing. But you can know they're just like reading off a script or something, or they've
Mm.
memorized an answer or something like that. I'm reminded of an interview I watched with there's because I'm a big football fan. I support Arsenal, and
Mm.
one of our guys is called Josh Kroenke, who's on the board, and he did this interview a few years ago when we were not playing at our best, and you could tell and you could ask him questions about like the transfer window and all that kind of thing, and he was like, well, we'll work together. We're all part of the team. Everyone's doing this sort of stuff, and if you reach the bottom, the only way is really back up, really. And it was just, I saw his body language was like this.
Yeah.
And his hands were sort of like that, and it was just like, yeah, 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 yeah. Remember that, remember that, remember that,
Yeah.
remember that, remember that. And I mean, I watched the interview because at the time I was like, we need answers. But yeah,
Yeah.
you can tell these things, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah. We've all become a little bit sanitized, but it's my job as the interviewer to try and break that wall down a little bit and sort of warm them up a bit. And sometimes
Well,
I succeed and sometimes I fail.
it happens, Sally. It happens. Speaking of breaking down walls, well, in your case, actually reaching incredible heights, let's talk about your trip on the London Eye, reporting the
Oh,
weather, and you were set up by some guy called Tom, whose surname was Cruz, and yeah, tell me about that experience reporting live the weather
oh,
on top
okay.
of the London Eye.
No, well, it was quite a story. So that came about because Tom Cruise was promoting Mission Impossible, his latest
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
And we'd been told, and it was quite, it was quite a official process. Like he would not speak to anyone who hadn't watched the film. So I had to watch the film, which was such a hardship. It was brilliant on a
Oh,
Monday
poor
morning
you.
in the cinema. This is all right.
There's no
Um,
sympathy, Sally. No sympathy.
and
Joking, I'm joking.
and he was great. Like he goes around all his fans and spends a long time with them. He
Yeah.
spoke to them for so long that I missed my interview slot with him.
Oh,
And so we were meant to be going, having an interview with Tom, and of course time was getting closer. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't got anything with him. So Simon Pegg stepped into the rescue. I spoke to Simon's people and I said, I've got a 4-minute live in about 4 minutes time and I've got no one to speak to. Would Simon do an interview? And they said, yeah, no problem. And then about 30 seconds before we went live on air, they said, actually, he's not sure because it's live, isn't it? I was like, no, let me down now. I said, I promise I'll be nice. So he did the interview and I basically just asked, I was like, oh my God, actually, what am I going to ask you? I haven't prepared for this. But he was great. We had a lovely chat and he was really fun. And then it all worked out for the best because I only have a finite amount of time in which to ask people questions. And of course,
yeah,
with Tom Cruise, everyone wants you to ask all sorts of different things. So you've sort of got a list of things that you've got to get in.
yeah, yeah.
And I started to interview Tom once we'd gone off air. We were pre-recording it. And I'd said to my husband before, what am I going to ask him? And Matt's really got full of good ideas. And he said, why don't you get him to give you a Mission Impossible? So we sort of got towards the end of the interview and I'd sort of written on an envelope 2 Mission Impossibles. One was to be like whizzing down the Thames in a speedboat.
Yeah.
And the other one was to do the weather live, not live, but to do the weather broadcast from the top of the London Eye. And they'd never had a broadcast from the top of the London Eye before. And a mate of mine worked for the London Eye, and he'd always said to me, if you ever want to do it up there, you can. I was like, well, it's quite interesting, but I'm not sure I've got a reason to do it from up there. Anyway, finally there, we had a reason. And so Tom took ages to pick which one. And that's what I mean about being quite lucky, because if we'd been live on air, we'd have just had to cut off it and say, oh, well, never mind, I'll let you know tomorrow which one he picked. But fortunately, we were recording it. So he eventually said, okay, the London Eye. He said, and he took, hey, and I said, you're taking a long time. He said, I'm picturing the shot. So, of course, Tom, being the ultimate filmmaker, was like, what's going to look better? And I was like, no, what's going to be more fun? But anyway, he picked that one. And then at the end, he said to me, B. And I was like, be safe. And he went, be competent, because that's his thing. Be competent. I was like, oh, God, no pressure.
No pressure.
Anyway, so then I rung up the London Eye. I said, we've got to do this now. They were like, yeah, let's do it. And then it was like a health and safety mission. And then finally we're like, God, we better get on with it, because we had to do it really early in the morning and the nights were drawing in. So it was getting... and anyway, we got to the end of September, we're like, why haven't we done? We better do it. And then on the day we were going to do it, the winds were picking up.
Oh, no.
And we had to do it at 6 a.m. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, it's a right palaver. And the night before, my boss and I went out, because we stayed in London, and we don't like normally sort of, have a particularly big budget for anything. But we sort of thought, well, we better stay in London the night before and we'll go out for a meal. Anyway, so I think we'd had a bottle of wine, got to bed about 1, got up at 4, rang the Met Office, was like, can you tell me the weather? Anyway, the winds were just about okay, and we got up to the London Eye and we put all the harnesses on and everything, and we got up there, and we only knew if it was going to be okay once they'd stuck their head out of the hatch at the top of the London Eye and said, it's going to be okay. The winds aren't too bad. So it was windy, but it was just about okay. And then you go out and you did the weather, and then I had to think about all... Like, people say, what was it like? I said, well, I was very focused on what I was going to say, because I knew I had one opportunity to not mess it up. And I had to record the weather. I had to record a headline, a coming up, a reaction, something for online. So I had all these kind of things that I had to think about in my head. But I did take a moment and go, just take a moment, Sal, and look around here, because it's, there's no one out here. It's just you. Yeah. And it's the top of London. And it was
London, yeah.
Ace. It really was. It killed my hair.
It's a small sacrifice.
And the other thing I did is, as I got out there, I managed to turn the microphone off on me. And by the grace of God, we had a second microphone on. Just before we do it, we were like, should we put a backup microphone on? Thankfully, I had a backup microphone, but it was on a different camera. So when I was editing it, the sound was all out of sync. It was a nightmare. It took a whole day to edit. But anyway, we got there in the end. But that just shows, doesn't it? Have a plan B.
Always have a plan B.
Otherwise, we'd have had no sound and the whole thing would have been awful.
And carry that extra mic.
Yeah.
Did you ever get any feedback from
Tom Cruise? So all my hopes lie in the next premiere for part 2 of Mission Impossible, when I will be chasing him up. Although hopefully his team won't go, God, don't put that woman anywhere near him. She's a health and safety nightmare. Also, I don't know what the next Mission Impossible should be. So if anyone's got any good ideas for what I could do.
Yeah, it might not be Mission Impossible. It might be something completely different with him in it. You never know.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. It's like I know you're here promoting another film, but did you watch me on Top of the London Eye?
Don't worry, here I am. Here's the phone.
It's like, here's my phone. Watch.
That'll have to be pre-recorded again.
Yeah, I'd say do it, because he actually picked the thing for you as well.
Yeah.
Didn't he? So yeah, I think I know he's probably a busy man, but he's probably thinking, did she do it?
He might be. Yeah. He might be thinking about me.
I wonder that. I don't know, but I definitely follow up and just be like, I did it.
Well, I will at that. We tried to get his people to see it, but I don't know whether they ever looked at it. It's almost sort of impossible to get hold of them unless you're, I don't know, James Corden.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Did you do you did the Bridgerton premiere as well, right?
Oh, I did, yes.
Yeah, how was that?
Well, I watched it back recently, and I was horrified. I spent the whole time I spent the whole time talking to the guy and almost ignored the girl, which is mortifying. I just wondered, I was like, Sally, you practically ignored.
Oh,
What's the girl got you? It's Colin and Penelope. I can't
yeah.
remember their real names, but I almost ignored Penelope and just talked to Colin, which is awful. I was obviously quite taken by him. But anyway, he's about however many years younger than me, so I can't, probably the less said about that, the better. But it was lovely, and it was amazing. The fans blow my mind. One
It's
fan had come
got a
over
big fan
from
base. Big fan.
Italy, and she
Italy.
was in tears. Oh, that's it, Nicola Coughlin. And I said to Nicola, I said, just to say that there is a fan over here who is desperate to see you and she's come all the way from Italy. So Nicola, bless her, came over and had a really good chat with her and a hug. She was lovely. But yeah,
Mm.
the fans are proper hardcore. They
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, it's pretty popular. It's pretty
And
popular.
depending on the size of the film and what they're promoting, the red carpet looks very different. So sometimes if it's not a high budget movie, it'll be very simple. But Bridgerton was one of the most extraordinary
Yeah.
I'd been to. And then there was another one, House of Dragon.
Mm.
And I couldn't work out why there were loads of drag queens on the carpet. And it was
Right.
only afterwards I was like, oh, House of Drag On.
Oh, for God's sake.
And I think that was the link I think I might be wrong.
No, I
I
don't
mean,
know
I
what
could have
drag.
asked, but why
Yeah,
ask a question when you can not know and live in ignorance?
that's true. Yeah, I don't recall a character in drag in Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. I'm not sure. House of Dragon, sorry. Yeah, but who knows? Who knows? There might be one in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember doing a. It's funny because like some of those premieres in Leicester Square, they were either big, like you say, Bridgerton or Avatar recently and all that kind of thing, and some really small. But I remember going to one. I'm not sure if I can. Well, it was my favorite show at one point. It was called House of Cards.
Oh yes, I mean, I know
Yeah,
it all ended unfortunately, but House of
yeah.
Cards was
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah. I remember first year of university. I remember my mum was a patron at the Old Vic at the time, and a certain man was in charge at the time, and yeah, and we got tickets to the premiere, and we got onto the red carpet. I remember walking past and going, and I actually walked past him on the red carpet in Leicester Square, and I was just like, wow, I'm looking into my future right now. I was doing big manifesting that night, and I actually got snapped in the Daily Mail, and then you could see like people interviewing. It was Kevin Spacey, and I was up on the big screen behind him, literally looking like this. And I just thought, hey, that's made my year. That's made
There
my
you
year.
go. Oh, I love the manifesting. You can
Yeah.
do it, Ollie.
Oh yeah. We all
Remember us
can.
all when you're there.
Yeah, I will do. I will do. I'll get you
I'll be
all.
interviewing you on the red carpet.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll get you all on the Body Attack Crew a ticket. Don't you worry. We'll all
Thank
go.
you.
We'll all go there together. Yeah, put it out there, man. Big manifesting. This is good. Sally, I just got a few more things left for you today. But first of all, thank you for your time. I really, really
Pleasure.
appreciate it. So, just I do have the final two questions. I did have one just there, and now it's just disappeared. Yeah, I'd say actually, yeah. What's next for you, journalism wise?
Oh, well, I am ambitious. I love, love, love my job. I'd love to keep going if there's an opportunity to do it. Maybe on a national level, I would love that, but we'll see. It's there's no jobs, so I've got to wait my turn, keep doing what I'm doing. And as I said, I would love to write a beautiful romantic novel that's turned
Yeah,
into a best-selling series, and maybe you'll be my lead man,
yeah,
Ollie.
yeah.
I
I'm
love
here for
music
you.
and songwriting. I want to write a musical. I want to write a pop song. I want to
Yeah,
have a thriving kids music business. I want I want to cook amazing food, have
yeah,
my children perfectly happy all the time.
yeah.
I
Ambitious.
don't know.
I
I'm
love it.
such a dreamer. I want everything. I want my cake and I want to eat it twice over.
Of course. I look forward to it. Yeah, no, I request that when the book is out, well, two things actually. When the book's out, I get the copy. I get a copy before anyone else.
Of
And
course, of course,
yes,
of
and
course.
and if you're looking for a lead actor for your Netflix series adaptation, you know
You're
where
in
to
it.
find. You know where to
You're in
find me.
it. I'll try
Uh,
not to make it too raunchy.
it's fine. So it's fine by me. It's all good.
Wherever you can get it, eh?
Yeah, yeah. So it's not too much though, Sally. I'll be like, "Oh, too much here," but Cool. Yeah. But anyway, we're manifesting a lot of stuff today. It's great.
Exactly.
So yeah, just final two questions for you, Sally. So the first one is, what would you say was a bit of advice you wish you heard when you were starting out?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think it's probably the advice I would now give to other people, which is find your purpose.
Yeah.
You know, what were you put on this planet to do? And I think I was put on this planet in terms of journalism to do and finally to bring a bit of light at the end of the program. And don't apologize for that.
Yeah. Just be proud to be you. And yeah, you know, that's
Yeah.
it. That's
Biff
it,
the
really.
imposter syndrome and be proud of who you are and do what you're good at.
Yeah, exactly. Just be proud of you. Perfect. And finally today, what would you say was an experience or experiences you've had in your career up to now that you'll never, ever forget?
There's a few people I've spoken to about some difficult stories that I'll never forget, where you were just so honoured that they told you their story. And some of them quite sad. I'll never forget those. But something a little more cheerful would be the top of the London Eye. I mean, that was amazing. Absolutely loved it. And I'd go again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, the London Eye, I think that's a good one. I mean, I can't imagine the views from up there, 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, no one's up yet. And you're just looking out over London, literally like
Yeah,
top of the world right now.
breathtaking.
Yeah, fantastic.
Real privilege.
Yeah, I look forward. Yeah, cool. I look forward to more of your crazy stunts and everything, and all the things you want to get, or the book and everything in the future. And we'll see you on the television again at some point, reporting the weather and all that stuff. And we look forward
Fingers crossed, that's the goal.
of course, and many more to come, Sally. This has been absolutely amazing, Sally. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much for listening to the nonsense that comes out of my mouth. And to anyone who watches, thank you.
No, absolutely not nonsense at all. You're fantastic. You know, it's been a great conversation to have, and I'm very, very, very privileged to have had it. So thank you.
Well, it's been a delight.
Yeah, if you just hang on, I'll finish the recording and then we'll have a little debrief afterwards and then I'll let you go. But yeah, we'll end there. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic Podcast, the Uncensored Critic Podcast, and I'll be back again very, very, very soon. And Sally Williams, thank you so much.
Thank you.